Hey guys, greetings red and black fans. This is Flamengo. Welcome to the Paparazzo Rubro-Negro channel. If you're just joining us, I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe below, turn on notifications by clicking the bell, and drop a like on the video. We're here thanks to the sponsorship of Caravana do Haroldo. Remember, you can secure your spot. You're here hanging out with Paparazzo Rubro-Negro, but you can secure your spot at the Copa Libertadores da America. You can secure your spot at Maracanã with reception service and ticket included. Guys, I'm wearing a seatbelt, I'm driving, it's like I'm talking to someone next to me, paying attention to everything. So there's no reason to worry, okay? I'm not holding a phone, all right? There's no reason for anyone to say anything. All right, guys, let's go. Caravana do Haroldo, ticket included, reception service. So you can enjoy the greatest possible comfort at Mengão's games, Maracanã. With everything included, you can call them up and you won't regret it. Also, remember that you can secure your spot at Flamengo's away games in the Libertadores. They have the packages, the best packages. Remember, they've been taking Flamengo fans to games outside Brazil since 1981, including the Club World Cup. Okay, guys? That's right, Zico's Club World Cup, Mengão as champions. Caravana do Haroldo was already taking you to follow Mengão, so check it out. Also remember that you can lose weight in a healthy way with Mais Cabelo. The Mais Slim program from Mais Cabelo is amazing. Guys, everyone here who's trying it out, I only get compliments. People all over Brazil, there's Mais Cabelo Slim, which is the program, the Mais Slim. Mais Cabelo Slim, Mais Cabelo as well, at Mais Cabelo. You can join or access the link that's in the pinned comment. Man, you can get to know it, get a free evaluation. There's a Mais Cabelo near you everywhere in Brazil. There's always a Mais Cabelo clinic. And besides that, you can also take care of your hair health. I had some hair loss at the beginning of my weight loss. Mais Cabelo is taking care of it, and my hair is already starting to grow back. It's really important for you to have this follow-up with Mais Cabelo. We're here too, and I'm driving. I have insurance from AIP. AIP Florida helped me and found the best insurance company for me. You can also look for AIP. Leadership, let me talk about leadership. Leadership is at AIP. Check this out. We're here to bring you a lot of information, and I want to start right away by talking about Jorginho's situation. Jorginho and Danilo. Flamengo released footage of training between one match and the next. This trip to Cusco, Flamengo stays overnight in Cusco, okay? From Tuesday to Wednesday. They play on Wednesday, stay overnight from Wednesday to Thursday, and then on Thursday. So that's 2 nights at high altitude, guys. 2 nights at high altitude. But the most important thing for us to talk about is the leadership at Flamengo. That one, we need to talk to you about what's happening. Because Flamengo even considered hiring Fabio Luciano to help Boto and Jorginho. And Jorginho in that link between the football department, the squad, and the board. And even bring the coach closer to the squad to be a spokesperson for the players in the locker room with the board and also with the coach. But that wasn't necessary. Flamengo even considered within Flamengo bringing in certain people. We followed a lot of players. Many names were considered. Edu Gaspar, even Fabio Luciano himself, but it wasn't necessary. The hiring of a director, a locker room manager wasn't necessary, and that came to light today. An exclusive piece of information that we reported with Bruno Lemos. Lemos Santos, who also works with Mauro Santana. An important piece of information that Danilo and Jorginho, especially Jorginho, are working on this. Jorginho is working with Danilo's help on bringing the players closer to the coach, managing Flamengo's locker room. And we've seen Jorginho at several moments, even seen in Flamengo TV videos. He was talking to Leonardo Jardim. He was giving instructions. Also raising issues with Leonardo Jardim. And he's being that spokesperson, that person who creates this link. Jorginho showing that. Danilo himself as well, right? We also have images that were released. You even saw on our cover Danilo talking to Jardim. And Jorginho also talking to Jardim. And this also happens with the board, okay? Their players. BAP praised Danilo a lot recently, and we know that Danilo has this intention of becoming a manager, an executive, a coach, something like that, right? In soccer, after his playing career, he has the ability for that. He's a very well-spoken guy and a very intelligent guy. He already has his own projects even outside of soccer. Jorginho is the same, right? Besides playing really well, being the penalty wizard, right? His little hop and all that, and commanding Flamengo's midfield. Jorginho also helps with leadership. And he was very important at that moment, at the time when both Danilo, with what he said after the last game, and holding the group accountable, as well as Jorginho. Holding people accountable, he was very demanding. He talked about it in the mixed zone, and he was especially demanding internally. And then we'll get to that point, right? Some players need to be helped back into form. That's the case with Samuelino. He showed a slight improvement, but he hasn't played well in the last 2 games. And he needs to, right? He needs to develop his mentality a bit more, improve his confidence and everything else. I don't know if Jorginho is thinking about maybe putting him as a wingback, right? He used to play like that at Atletico de Madrid. But I think it's interesting for us to talk here about Gonzalo Plata. That one was clear, right? The comeback. And the turnaround of some players like Gonzalo Plata. Ayrton Lucas himself did well in this game after being heavily criticized in the previous match. But the most important, I think the most significant return to form was Plata's. He came in really well. He even deserved a goal. He almost scored. He hit the post. He entered the game well, just like I said yesterday. The player isn't required to follow Flamengo or have a Flamengo photo. Can he delete it? He did, so there's no problem. As long as he's committed, that he's committed when it comes to training, being an athlete, not messing up. If he's committed, he'll get an opportunity. I think that's what Jardim wanted to say. Every time he talked about Gonzalo Plata, when he said in the press conference that the player isn't well integrated and all that. So guys, that's what I'm saying. If the player is committed, he'll get another chance. He came in, played well, and now he's getting more opportunities at Flamengo, and that's also thanks to Jorginho's leadership. Jorginho is a key figure when it comes to leadership, and he's also bringing the group closer to Plata. Plata, who was even being criticized before, at first, when he missed a training session or arrived late, there was that whole running joke about it. Everyone thought it was funny. Eventually, people stopped finding it funny, and the newspaper O Globo reported on it. Most importantly, Jorginho brought Plata closer to everyone again, both to the coach and also to the board, to Jose Boto, who also never actually had a problem with Plata, but it was important to be able to convey the board's dissatisfaction to the player. And also that the player would listen and decide to deliver, to want to show his commitment there, right? Which is more important. So guys, I'm glad that Jorginho made this connection, made this situation happen, and this news reached us. I thought it was important to bring to you that Jorginho is being a true leader at Ninho do Urubu and doing what Flamengo even considered hiring someone to do. Imagine, Flamengo was going to have an extra expense. They were going to hire a manager to take charge of the locker room. And that wasn't necessary because Jorginho and Danilo are already handling that. So the hiring, at least for now, right? At least for now, the hiring of a locker room manager is on hold, right? Cancelled, let's put it that way. But it could happen. They might change their minds and hire someone. But they're doing that job well at the moment, right? It's about bringing this to you, also bringing up important issues, right? Alexandro still won't be fully recovered. And man, he probably won't travel for this game in Cusco, right? Flamengo will play at high altitude. The player still hasn't fully recovered physically. So Alexandro will probably be out for Flamengo, possibly also for the Fla-Flu. The player had a little problem. So Flamengo is trying to get the player back, right? They're giving him treatment. And actually, we're going to bring some news here that's not very good. It's not good at all, right? The news is terrible. And look, I had already recorded some news here about Jorginho. I mentioned the good news about him becoming a leader and helping out in the locker room. But now the news is terrible. I had recorded that we knew he was having pain in his calf, in his left calf. But now the news is bad. Aside from Pulgar's shoulder problem, which we'll discuss soon, Jorginho had an injury confirmed, guys. What a tough time, my friends. Injury confirmed in Jorginho's left calf. After undergoing an MRI, the player had the injury in his left calf confirmed. In other words, Flamengo didn't disclose the severity of the injury, but besides not having Eric Pulgar in the midfield, in the game in Cusco, we won't have Jorginho, and possibly not against Fluminense and Palmeiras either, guys, in the Brasileirão. It's unbelievable. The two pillars of Flamengo's midfield are out in decisive matches against teams that are at the top of the table, Fluminense and Palmeiras. Palmeiras, the league leader. Flamengo loses both pillars of their midfield at a crucial moment in the season, at a crucial moment for their Libertadores debut at high altitude. It's unbelievable. And now we're going to need Nicolas de la Cruz more than ever. We're really going to need Nicolas de la Cruz, who came on and played very well against Santos. Everton Araujo is a much more defensive player than a playmaker. And as for de la Cruz, he does both things really well, right? Tackling and also creating. Flamengo obviously has a fantastic squad. It's a very strong squad. Midfield options include Everton Araujo plus De La Cruz, who can play defensive or central midfielder. Man, I'm going to talk about this, okay? We need him to take on this responsibility and make the trip to altitude. Because we know that De La Cruz sometimes doesn't play on synthetic turf, doesn't play at high altitude and so on. Man, we're going to need him. We're going to need him. Another important topic to talk about is Lucas Paquetá. In fact, in the mixed zone this week, after the win against Santos, he said that he does play, even in Europe, for the national team. He plays as a central midfielder. And that if Flamengo needs it, he'll play as a central midfielder, okay? So obviously we have a huge loss without Jorginho and without Eric Pulgar. We know that Eric Pulgar will be out for at least 2 weeks with a shoulder problem, right? He was also diagnosed, according to Werner Casagrande, with a shoulder problem. So, Eric Pulgar won't play in Cusco and probably won't play against Fluminense and Palmeiras in the Brasileirão. Chavez will play there. But we also, on top of everything, lose Jorginho for an indefinite period, right? Besides that, Alexandro also has a problem with his right hamstring, right? Alexandro is also recovering. There have already been 2 games where Ayrton Lucas played in his place because he's injured. So Flamengo is already without Alexandro, who is a very important player. Flamengo is also without Eric Pulgar, who will be out for 2 weeks, according to Werner Casagrande. And Flamengo won't be able to count on Jorginho for at least 15 to 30 days, guys. Because even though the injury, it's a muscle injury in his left calf. MRI confirmed it, right? If there's an injury, even if it's the simplest injury, it's 15 to 30 days, 15 to 30 days. In other words, look at how many games we're losing Jorginho for at this key moment of the season. If Palmeiras lost Piqueires, Flamengo's losses are much greater. Much greater. Flamengo has some significant losses. We always get worried when this stretch of injuries and absences comes around. Man, the time has come. It's unbelievable. That moment we hate has come, the one we hope never happens, which is losing players. especially with injuries. Yeah, Flamengo has, like I said, Paquetá to play as the box-to-box midfielder to fill in for Jorginho's absence. There's Everton Araujo to play in place of Pogar, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And then there's De La Cruz. Here's what I'll say. On the left side, Ayrton Lucas will have to do his job. I've already talked here about the possibility of Lino also playing as a wingback to give Leonardo Jardim more options there as well. It's a different formation. I know it would be a different formation, but he can think about these options. And then another important point for us to talk about is man, that's unbelievable. It's De La Cruz. We know that De La Cruz doesn't travel for some games on synthetic turf and at high altitude. He's not included. But Flamengo needs to understand that this game is essential. At a time like this, especially with these injuries, De La Cruz has to be available, man. He has to be available. It's a really important moment for him to be available. But there's no other way. He has to be available. He doesn't play on artificial turf. He has to be available. He's going to have to play against Cusco. My God, guys, that's crazy. Flamengo there. And the worst part is it's in the same position group, right? Same position group, Eric Pulgar and Jorginho. If I remember right, it was last year. Can't recall exactly when both were injured at the same time. Flamengo struggled a lot. Who remembers? Flamengo struggled significantly without Eric Pulgar and Jorginho. A lot. Well, very bad news. So, Eric Pulgar, shoulder problem. Alexandro isn't traveling for the game against Cusco, according to Bruno Lemos, who works with Mauro Santana, because he's still recovering from a hamstring injury. And now Jorginho as well. Monica Alves from Coluna reported that he came off with muscle pain in the last game, the game against Santos. And now Flamengo, the club's own communications, confirmed the information that Jorginho is injured and is out of the Cusco game, and many others, right, guys? Because it's an injury. It's an injury. Nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. That's it. Please follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, enable notifications, and like the video. Thanks for joining me. Greetings, Jubileros. This is Flamengo. Thanks. Wow, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Unbelievable.